Howdy everyone. So my name is Kelly Monroe and I'm one of the regional advisors for Texas BPA Area 1 Region 3. I'm recording this video in January of 2025, so the dates I might mention are for this specific regional RLC competition that's going on. So I do reuse videos, so please make sure if I do say a date that's specific to this region, the directions would always still be the same, but the dates might change. So I do try not to say dates in the videos, but in case I slip up. I wanted to make a video kind of showing our testing events, how things work for you guys. I wish I could say it was simple. It's unfortunately not. We do have 3 different categories when it comes to testing events. And depending on which one you fall in, you might start at a different location. We do test on our home campus because we were so huge. We don't have a place big enough to test everyone anymore, the money to rent out computers like they do at state. So it is important that you are in constant contact with your advisor because they will have the testing windows for the specific year that we have. For us this year, it's the week we're coming back from our winter break. They know when the testing times are allowed to start, when we're allowed to test to. So they have all of that information. Okay. But I still wanted to kind of go through and walk you through some do's and don'ts. There are 2 big things that you as a student must know and do. The first one is you need to know your login to bpa.org. Your advisor should have given that to you. It's you're going to have a password that you have to know, and that password was set by your advisor, and then hopefully you changed it because that is going to be a unique password just for you. It is very important you know that. You will need to know that for all levels of competition, region, state, and nationals, as well as your virtual events. So if you don't know that, there's homework assignment number 1. Homework assignment number 2 is to make sure that you know your WSAP. You've got to make sure you know that because you should know what competencies you're being tested on, and as well, am I allowed to bring in materials to my event? So some events do state that you're allowed to bring in hard copy, basically AKA printed things, or handwritten. You just can't have electronic. So if I wanted to bring my style and reference manual in because I'm doing fundamental word processing and I'm going to have to format a bunch of documents, it says that I can bring that in. It does also state that it can be handwritten, so I could go through and make myself notes about how many inches the HIPAA line should be, or how many spaces that is, or if I'm always messing up arrays in C++ programming, I can go through and write out what an array direction might be. If I can't remember my cool colors from my warm colors, I can write myself notes. These are cool colors, these are warm colors. So many events do allow for those kinds of things as long as they're what we call a hard copy. That basically means I'm not going online or finding a resource that I have saved on my computer. Some students will come up to me, well, I have this Java book, but I have it saved as a PDF on my computer. That's not a hard copy, that's a soft copy, that's not allowed. So it has to be a printed material, okay? Printed or handwritten, but you gotta be able to physically hold it in your hand. Some events also do say that you can bring in a calculator as long as it follows the SAT guidelines. So make sure that you have read through that. 90% of our events, you seriously just need a 4-function calculator. But you want to make sure that you know if you do need that or not. Opening up the calculator on the computer will trigger our lockdown browsers. So it is important that if you do intend to use a calculator, that you do bring one into testing with you if you are allowed to do so. So those are your 2 homework assignments, okay? I'm going to go through and log in to the website so that I can show you what it's going to look like when you go to actually take your test. Now, there are a few events that you will not go to the Register My Chapter website to log into, and those events are what we call testing only events. So those are only doing objective questions. So if you've been doing your practice tests like business law and ethics, where it is straight 50 questions, multiple choice, true, false, you're going to have a testing ticket, and the advisor knows, hey, you only go to that website and you're going to do your entire test on that site. Most of the other contests, you're going to do a combination of both. Fundamental word, you're only going to use here, but I'm going to pick on banking and finance. 1, because that's my son's event and I happen to know his event. But 2, he has a combination of both parts. And I did want to kind of bring that up to show you real quick. So I'm going to log in as him. I'm going to make sure I check the box. Am I human? Had a bunch of people tell me before they couldn't log in, and it was because they weren't checking the box. So he's doing something called banking and finance. So banking and finance, I'm still going to get a testing ticket. It is important that when you go and you check into your testing location with your advisor, that they know what event you're in, obviously, because Connor, when he would check in, he would need to grab a testing ticket from me, but he's still going to log into this site. If I am in business law and ethics, computer network technology, computer security, those events, they're straight multiple choice true false. Don't assume. Because, for example, last year medical coding was strictly multiple choice true false. This year is a combination of both. Your advisor has the master list and knows which one you've got, so they'll be able to tell you which website you're going to need to start at. So remember, for this, I literally just went to our region website. So that's area1region3.bpa.org. And I just scrolled down to the bottom where it said pre-submit a project. And that just brought me straight up to this website. We have that bookmarked for your convenience. If I was doing computer security, I would go to the website that's listed on the testing ticket. And you'll have to make sure that you type it all in correctly. When I'm logged in here, it is very important that if you are not in a event that is only multiple choice true false, you have to start at this site. This site is the official timer, okay? So I'm going to go through and I'm going to pull up that word instructions. Instructions I can log into and see at any time. However, all the other buttons I'm only going to be able to click and do the second that I am ready to start my test, because clocks and all that kind of stuff start when you hit those buttons. So it is very important you don't touch anything unless you have been told by your advisor you are now ready to begin, okay? So we can see here it's saying that, hey, I'm going to have an objective portion and an application portion. So the objective portion, that's going to be the answer right portion. There is, like I said, testing lockdown browsers on there, so the answer right portion will basically close and lock you out of anything if you have anything else up, so please keep that in mind. I cannot switch tabs. Like once I open that tab and I start, I cannot move out of that tab for any reason. If I click over to here just to check the clock, I will lock and submit my test. So please be aware that if you are in a certain part of a test, that you are only in that test and you're not clicking around on many things. The Answer Right software, we call it move away status, is very, very sensitive. We had some DECA students whose tests got submitted because their computer popped up saying that they only had 10% battery. So it is very, very important that your Chromebook or whatever you're testing on is completely charged. You don't have anything else open that you're not supposed to have open, and that you are severely focused straight on your test, okay? Judge Pro has a few exceptions and does have a few sites that I call that are green lighted, and we'll get to those here in just a second, but Answer Right is one of them. So I can open this up and then click the Answer Right, staying in that so that my clock is running. That will be fine. I just can't click back and forth, and I hope that kind of makes sense. These directions you can go through and you can read. So we can see here that in the Judge Pro site, there's extra time that has been added to it so that it allows me time to open up my Answer Right, to upload my files. It is very, very important that you do realize that 60 minutes is all of the time you're given for tests at the region and state level in the state of Texas. We are huge. That is a Texas rule. It's actually listed in our policies and procedure manual that we only get 60 minutes. So I don't care that the WSAP said you get 90 minutes. That is for nationals only. At state and region, you get 60. 60. That's it. Okay. We can go through and see here that you've got to make sure that you've got your stuff all saved correctly. You are allowed to upload links as well as PDFs. So you do want to make sure that you keep that in mind. So if you've already figured out, like I am doing C++, I want to make sure I get all my executable files to the grader. I'm going to go ahead and have Google Drive open. That's one that is green lighted. So is OneDrive, so is Dropbox. Along with Cami. Anybody who has an objective portion as well as a application portion, for example, banking and finance, we have gone through and created what we call editable PDFs. So you can type on the PDF to go through and type and save your answer. If that's not working for some reason, Cami has been opened as well. So you can go through and pull that up to type on it. If there is another site that your school uses that is not approved, please make sure your advisor contacts me and I can get that corrected or added. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pick on poor Connor. He's my son. I'm allowed to pick on him. And I'm going to go ahead and click on buttons you should not be touching. Okay. So we can see here that I can see where my clock is going to be. I can see where it hits start test. Once I hit start test, I am officially starting my clock. I cannot hit buttons. I am now dead set that I am going to have to do this test. So when I click on start test, we can see here it tells me I have to click and open up the answer right portion. So in theory, I would have my testing ticket. It's not going to let me in because if I did, y'all would see questions and I don't want that to happen. So I would have a testing ticket. They will have a login that I have to know. So I would go through and actually be able to type in that login. I will also have to click and agree that I have read this agreement, that I realize that I'm not taking pictures of the content of the test. I'm not sharing the test. I'm not writing down the questions. I'm not sharing the questions with my advisor. It is a confidential test, and I do agree that I'm going to do that. Okay. So I would go through and do my part here. Close it when I'm done. We can see the clock is still ticking. And now I'm ready to go through and open up my test booklet. I'm not going to open up the test booklet because obviously I don't want you guys to get a head start if you're in banking and finance and see any part of the test. But when I go through and click on it, it's going to download. So then I could go through and actually open my event, my test. Actually, if I just open that first one, that first page is just a page that has the stuff. So you can see here it does take time. This is why we have added in the extra 10 minutes to upload our work. So that's kind of why it's been added. So you can see here, editable PDF, I can go through and I can type on here. So I can go through and type in his number, so I can just type straight on here. You do want to make sure you've saved it when you do that. So I'm going to hit don't save because I don't want to save that. When I'm all done with my test, okay, I am ready. This is only going to let me turn in basically PDFs. Okay, so I want to keep that in mind. So my test was a PDF, so I can go ahead and hit choose file. And I'm going to go ahead and upload my test. I would highly recommend that you name it something else when you do have your answers on there. So like banking and finance done, banking and finance your number, something like that. So you know this is the one to turn in and you don't turn in a blank test like I'm doing with poor Connor here. So I'm going to hit submit so we can see his file. I can submit up to 5 files. At state, it's not going to be like that. It's going to pretty much be like a combined PDF. However, we're just learning at Region. We kind of have a few rules that we do bend. I can also upload URLs. So here I'm going to go ahead and add in a link. So if I wanted to put everything in my Dropbox to the judge, I want to put job 1, job 2, job 3, because I'm doing fundamental Word, I can do that. Just make sure you hit add or you hit submit. Once I'm completely done, I'm going to go ahead and hit submit and finish work. I can only press this button one time and one time only. That is it. So please make sure that you keep that in mind. So we're going to go ahead and say that he's all done because I'm going to reset this for him before he tests. You'll notice my buttons are grayed out because I clicked them before. I'm not allowed to add or do anything to it. I told you guys you only get to click them once. I only get to upload them once. Here is where I can go through and see when did I upload, and you can also see there are links to what I uploaded. So I could go through, click and pull this up to be able to pull up what did I turn in for my test. Okay, this is part of the reason why it's very important that you know your login, because only you'll be able to go through and do it. The big part is once you are done with your test, you do need to make sure you delete all of your test files. We do not allow you guys to keep them. Okay. Then you are completely finished with this part of testing. Open testing, that'll be a different video that we'll do later. That's a different time. We do know that there is possibility of January with bad weather. We are monitoring situations. Your advisor will be contacted if something does happen. So please make sure that, guys, if you are testing, this is the week you need to be in contact with your advisors. You need to make sure you're checking your email and reminds, or however your advisor is getting in touch with you. This is not the week to blow them off. Because there's a lot of things that happen. It's getting real. We are in that final countdown to our regional event, and hopefully we will see your names on our award session. Once this is all uploaded, we will go through the grading process. It does take time to grade. There are over 2,000 of you turning things in for us to grade. It does take some time. Hopefully we will release results the day of our regional conference. It just depends on what the weather happens and how long it takes us for us to grade. And lastly, please make sure that you've double checked, like you've done your homework. You know your login to your bpa.org. You know your login to bpa.org, and you know your WSAP. Okay? So I wish you guys all the best of luck, and hopefully this is kind of lets you see how the process works. Remember, don't click buttons until you're ready, and make sure you're listening to that advisor and your test proctor.